Hey gang, today we're going to do the intro solo and the main solo to Just Between You and Me by April Wine, band out of Canada from the late 70s and early 80s, at least they were most well known then. And this particular song, which came out in 1981, was actually number 14 on the first day of MTV. So it was the number 14 video ever played on MTV. That's pretty cool. And the first video from Canada, or from Canadian band. All right, anyway, a little bit of trivia there. This solo, I really like it. It's soulful. It's got some nice bending in there, and it's also pretty slow, so you can hear all the notes, and it's not that difficult. So what could be better? You know, a nice, easy solo. It sounds great. All right, well, we're going to go over it note for note in just a second. You know the drill. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up, and if you haven't yet, subscribe for one of these, or maybe more, every week. All right, we'll see you in just a second. Hey gang, let's go over this note for note. Before we do, I've got the tab in the description below, which you can look in the description and find a link there. Anyway, download that. It's going to make your life a lot easier. All right, here's how the lesson's going to go. First, we'll talk about the sound. Then we'll talk about the chord structure that I'm soloing over, and there's a little tiny bit of theory. Then we'll do the intro solo, and then we'll do the main solo. Both of the solos are pretty short, so I think we can keep this video nice and short and sweet. All right, so let's talk briefly about the sound. I'm obviously using a Les Paul guitar, and I'm playing out of the neck pickup on this to get that thicker, sustaining sound. I'm using a lot of gain on the amp, kind of like a 70s Marshall type of sound with a pretty high amount of gain. I've got the gain, I'd say, clocked at around 7. Maybe between 7 and 8, so pretty high. Your mileage may vary, so just turn up a lot of gain. I've also got I'm running a distortion pedal on this just to give it that little extra bit of sustain, but I have this distortion turned on its lowest amount, so there's basically no distortion on it, but it's just it does add a little distortion, but just a little bit, okay? So you really want a lot of sustain on it. All right, so that's what I'm doing for that. Now let's talk about the chords. Let me take off a little bit of that gain. The chords are actually pretty straightforward. So for both the solo and the intro just kind of goes into the main thing. It's G, B minor, C, and then E minor, D, C, and that's it. Okay, for the solo, it does exactly that twice. Before it goes into the solo, there's like an F chord. It's either an F major or you can play a major seventh, give it that sort of open feel. To a C, and then the solo starts. G, B minor, C, and E minor, D, C. All right, so those are the chords, and if you know those chords and you know kind of what key they're in, it turns out they're in the key of G. So all of this play is going to be in the key of G. It's going to make it pretty straightforward. There's only one note that's really kind of out of the key of G, gives it that bluesy feeling. All right, so without further ado, let's go into the intro solo now. We'll go over that. Whoops, I dropped my pick. Let me get another one here. All right, so let's do the intro solo. I'll play the whole thing first, and then we'll do it note for note. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start up on here on the 3rd string, slide up to the 9th fret, which is a E, okay? So, okay, and then play on the 2nd string, 8, 10, and 8 again, okay? Okay, and then we'll play. So it's basically the same thing, but this time we're bending up on that 10th fret a whole step. And once you've held it for a while, then start giving it some vibrato. So hold it for a while and then give it vibrato like this. and trail it off. Okay? Next part is this. Okay, so it starts out with a rake. Now I've taught rakes before, but basically on a rake what we're doing is we're playing a few strings below to get a really strong note. So instead of playing, which sounds fine, we're playing this. So what I'm doing on this rake is I'm playing on the first 3 strings, I'm stroking that with my pick, and I'm deadening the strings a little bit with my right hand, but mostly with my left hand as I pull that off. It's hard to do slowly, but if you practice it, you'll get it. And it's a nice little effect that a lot of rock players and blues players use. So practice that a little bit. So we're going to rake up to the first string 7th fret, and then 8, 10, back down to 8, back down to 7, and then on the second string 10, 9, and I'm saying 10, 8, and third string 9. And then here's the one note that's really out of it, or out of key. We're going to bend on the 10th, on the second string, the 10th. We're going to bend that only a half step. Not a whole step. A whole step would be in key to go here. But if you listen to the record, it's bent just a half step to give it sort of a bluesy sound. And then let it come down slowly, and then play the 9th, okay, on the third string. All right, here it is, whole thing. All right, it's a nice little one to practice your phrasing on. It's a really well-phrased line. So practice it until, I don't know, until you get it as good as you want to, which is kind of what I did. I don't know if I got it perfect, but I got it close enough for me. Okay, and then the last part is just simply going back from the 9th to 7th, back to 9th to 7th again. All right, and that's the intro solo. Okay, so let's do the main solo now. The main solo is basically, over those same chords, right? The G to B minor to C, and then E minor to D to C. All right, so it's basically over the same chords. Let me play the whole solo first, and then we'll go over it line by line. Okay, let's go over the first line. The first line, this is all in G, so you just kind of follow along in G if you know the key of G. This is all scales out of the key of G. All right, so we're going to start out with this. All right, and that one is very similar to the open line. We're just doing it higher up on the guitar. We're going to slide up on third string to the 16th. And then on the second string, we're going to play 15 a couple times. Okay, do it again. And then end up on the second string, 17th. Let it sing out and give it some sustain and a little bit of vibrato. Okay, that's it. Here's the second line. All right, so we're going to take the first string, 15th fret, play it and bend it up a whole step, and then play it itself. That's the 15th, and then do the same thing on the second string. Bend it up on the 15th, and then play the 15th. So that's a whole step bend each case, like this. And then we're going to play, so that's a hammer-on the 12th, on the second string to the 15th and off. and then play 14 and 12 on the third, ending on that G, right? Very strong note in a C chord. All right, here's the next line. All right, this one is probably the toughest line of the bunch, and it's because you've got a couple of bends in quick succession. I'll show you how to play it in a simpler way if you want. But anyway, we've got this rake going on here. Again, this time we're going to try and play this note. So we could just play, if you want to, you can just start on the second, 15th, 12th fret, and just play. All right, if you want to, you can play that, but the rake is there. All right, so that's what's going on there. The rake is on the fourth, third, and second strings. You're going to play the second, so the fourth and third are kind of ghost notes. And on the second string, you're going to play 12, 13, 15, 13, 12, and then on the third string, 14, 12, coming down to the 14th on the fourth. Back up to the 13th on, or the third, 12th. And then here we have okay, so this is kind of a tough thing to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to bend a whole step on the 14th, third string, and then play the 15th on the second string. So far, so easy. That's not so bad. But the second time, we're going to bend both of them. So we're going to bend the 14th a whole step up, and then play the 15th a whole step up and hold it. And gradually let it down. Okay? That's what it sounds like on the record to me. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do that. There's a way that you can do it by playing this. Oops, it's hard for me. You can tap. So you can tap the second, instead of bending on the second time, you can tap. But I find I can play it better if I bend. Now, if you're willing to forego that cool trail off, and I like that trail off, you can simply bend and play the 15th on the second. And then easier would just simply be to bend on the 14th and skip a string and play the 12th on the first. And trail it off like that. It's not quite as cool, but it sounds fine, you know, and it's definitely a lot easier. All right, so those are your options. Here's the last line. Okay, another cool line, right? So here we are playing. So this is going to be all on the second string and first string. So we're going to slide up to the 17th on the second. And then on the first, we're going to play 15 and 19. And then back to the 17th on the second. So it sounds like... Back to the 15th on the first, and then we're going to play a rapid pull-off. So that's a pretty common triplet, or a pretty common arpeggio to play. We're just going to be pulling off 19 to 15th, and then playing the 17th on the second. So play that 3 times, right? So that's a cool thing to do. It's a way to play kind of fast without really having to play fast, right? You're just pulling off, so picking once. All right, at the end of it, you're going to bend on the 19th a half step. So we're just bending a half step. It's tough not to overbend, okay? So be careful on that. And let it try to sustain, not like I just did. Okay, then come down 19, 17, 15, and then we're going to play this. So we're going to slide up on playing the second on the 15th, slide up to 17th, and then play a double stop, 17, 17, and bring it down to 15, 15. All right? Now, what's going on there is there's a harmonized line. There's actually either two guitars, or if you have a harmonizer, you can play it. So all I'm doing is trying to summarize or simulate, I guess, that harmonized line. If you just want to play a single note, that's fine. That sounds great too. All right, that's it. Well, there you have it, gang. Just Between You and Me by April Wine, the intro solo and the main solo. Pretty cool. I think it's pretty neat because it's an easy solo you can get under your belt and really work on your phrasing of all the notes, trying to make them sound nice. All right. Till next time, we'll see you on down the road.